Okay, now that we have looked at movement along the demand curve, we need to now look at what are called the non-price determinants, because the major determinant of all purchases is going to be price. I'm going to decide how many units I will demand based on the price of the item when you go to check out at the store. However, when it comes to more than one item, we are going to have what's called a shift of demand. And we're going to use this acronym, TRIBE, T-R-I-B-E. So instead of having a demand schedule with the individual price of an item, now we're talking about moving an entire market. So say, for example, the Pepsi commercial for the Super Bowl. The Pepsi commercial is really about trying to get soda drinkers to move from Dr. Pepper or Coke over to Pepsi. The commercial does not show the price of an individual can of Pepsi at all. It's just trying to persuade everyone to have a taste or preference. So this is our first one, the letter T. So if our taste or preference changes from Dr. Pepper to Pepsi, then you're going to have more consumers, increasing demand across the marketplace, and that's going to be a shift. So it's the taste or preference for goods and services. So if that were to happen, then we'd have an increase to the right if we had people shifting their preference to Pepsi. The second one is called related goods, and that's the R. This is where we have substitutes and complements. So a related good means we're looking at two goods that have to do with each other. So if the price of one thing goes up, then the demand for its substitute would increase. So right now, what's the substitute for eggs? Well, there's other proteins out there, like plant-based egg or soybean or something. So as the price of eggs goes up, the demand for any kind of substitute protein is going to increase. Same thing with steak and chicken. So if the price of steak goes up, then the demand for chicken would go up, because we're not going to be buying the steak anymore, are we? The other type of related good are called complements. That means if you buy one thing, you're probably going to need the other. So if the price goes down for peanut butter, that means that we would demand more jelly. So the demand for its complement, not substitute. So if the price decreases for peanut butter and we buy peanut butter, then our demand for its complementary good, jelly, would increase. And so that would shift demand to the right as well. The next thing that increases demand, we're talking about all the consumers in a marketplace. So their demand would increase if their income goes up. So if we get an increase in money, then our demand would increase as well. So now we have T, R, I. The next one is B, which is buyers, the number of. So if there's more people, like building all these apartments around Denton High, their demand's going to go up. So there's going to be demand for food. You need another grocery store, another gas station. So more people, more demand. Pretty simple. And the last one is called expectations. So now we have TRIBE, expectations. These are expectations of consumers. So if gas prices increase tomorrow, then my demand for gas would go up today because it's cheaper. I'm going to buy that gas today. So if there's a threatened tariff on oil coming in to our country, then we know gas is going to get expensive pretty soon. So we'll go fill up our cars immediately. Okay? So all these things, just think, are they going to increase demand or are they going to decrease demand in the marketplace? Now, time to draw the graphs of the shifts. So it says draw a correctly labeled supply and demand graph at equilibrium. Alright, well, let's do that first. The way we're going to do that is we're going to have our price and our quantity. We'll have our demand curve. In last class we learned supply curve. So remember, buyer's demand, seller's supply, where they meet in the middle, that's called equilibrium. That's how we know how much price should be and how much quantity is demanded at that price. Alright, so we got our labels. It says show the effect on your graph to decline in the population and the economy. Okay, so if the population is declining, let's see, it's not taste, related goods, income, it's the number of buyers. We had a decline in the population. Decline in number of buyers. That's going to give us a decline in demand, or a decrease in demand. Alright, so now how are we going to draw it? So we know that if this was the number 0, it would increase in number that way. If it's 0 right here, it would increase in price that way. So we're going to increase to the right. So demand is going to increase to the right. That means I'm going to draw a new demand curve. And I didn't say anything about supply, so now we have a new amount of buyers with the same amount of stuff. I can see where this crosses that this is going to be a higher price and there's going to be more demand. So this is what we call a shift. Now there's more demand than there is supply. That's going to be what we call a shortage, isn't it? Alright, so let's mark that as done. We'll do the same thing for number 4 of our price, our quantity, we have our supply, we have our demand. Let's make sure we have our equilibrium. Okay, show the effect on your graph on the demand for grape jelly when there's a decrease in the price of peanut butter. It's a complementary good. Alright. So the price of peanut butter is decreasing. That means my demand for peanut butter went up because it got cheaper. But what do I need with it? Well, I need demand increase for jelly. So we're looking at the demand for grape jelly. What happened? Peanut butter got cheap. People bought more of it. So now the demand for jelly is on this graph. Now it's not the price of one jar of jelly. It's just the demand of jelly in general. So remember, start at 0, increase to the right. Now I can see again the price went up and the quantity demanded is increased. So now we used our shifters to make shifts or changes in demand. So if this were the opposite and the price of peanut butter increased, then the demand for jelly would have decreased to the left. It would just do the opposite. We would draw it over here with an arrow that way, and then changing, we'd notice that the demand would make different changes to price and to quantity.